That's implied. Any reasonable person would understand that. Nor shall it be stored or worked on within 20 feet, here we go again, within 20 feet of any state or township road or right-of-way. So again, not just the road, the right-of-way of the road. So there again, I wouldn't be able to work on vehicles at my own place by this document.
But you're
Neither could Eddie. No, but grandfather. That's the point we just established.
Oh, that you mean grandfather ain't grandfather? Come on.
And somebody brought it up earlier. It's going to. I think Donna brought it up for one, and other people. When we said about Lee, I think you brought it up about the tannerite. All you do, the state line's what, less than a mile that way? Just like with the campsite stuff. Then they all went down there to Liberty Distributing. You know what I mean? Do we want to keep the money, then you get an influx of money from out of state, people that don't already pay the taxes and stuff in here, and let's just chase them across the line. That's counterproductive. And you're attacking, there's a lot of people in this community that are small business owners. They're self-employed. And this is attacking them.
JD, have you ever read this ordinance before? The junkyard ordinance that's been on the books with all this wording that you're concerned about now?
I don't have that book.
Has been on the books for over 20 years?
I don't have that book.
It's in the township code. All you have to do is come and ask and you will be.
And pay $60.
Yes, but she can hand you a book. You can
And
sit
it's
down
out.
and read any ordinance you want and hand her back.
But it's outdated and inconsistent.
Oh.
It is. It's from what, 1988?
Mine's dated February of 2000, or I'm sorry, April of 2016.
That's when it was. Well, here's the thing.
But anyway, the ordinance has been on the books for over 20 years.
Okay.
It
And
didn't.
you're just now getting concerned
No.
about the wording in it?
Yeah, but
I'm not concerned with that. I'm concerned with this.
But you have,
It's
but
the same
now we have an
ordinance.
enforcer,
It's
right?
sitting right in
There,
this
she has to
document
buy.
right now.
Okay.
That ordinance has been
But
on
then
the
it was a
books
junkyard
for 20
ordinance.
years.
Now to play it applies to car dealers. So you're imposing something from another entity on my business, or Eddie's business, or a 10-minute oil change, or a car wash. Those are all related automobile service entities. So you're lumping them all together.
I cannot say, I would not consider a car wash an automobile service. I would say that's.
What
What
do
is
you
it?
run from?
Repairing.
What is
You would say.
What is it?
But that doesn't mean that's what that
It's
is.
not a horse wash.
Words differently.
Automobile services is the paragraph 303.5, automobile services.
I understand.
Detailing, car washing is an automobile service, including sales, services, and fuel stations.
No, they gotta pay a compliance tax
Right.
yearly.
It's a permit fee.
It's a permit fee for doing good.
Compliance tax.
There's a squatter's rights deal where you can do it because they let you do it for so long.
JD,
Yeah.
on the document, read the definition of automobile services.
Where is it?
It's in the definitions.
Okay, just tell me a page number and I'll go right
Car
to it.
washes are excluded.
What is it?
Meeting.
Car washes are excluded.
Okay. What about the rest of them?
It's right here. Same thing. It's trying to make it for last.
Any building or land devoted to the retail sales of motor vehicles or fuel, including accessory services and repair facilities, if such service and repair are conducted within a completely enclosed building and/or the retail repair, servicing, maintenance, and reconstruction of motor vehicles, but not including car washes per se and/or a used whereby motor vehicles are stored awaiting transport to a different location.
Per se. You know what that means, right? Gray area. Implied.
JD, just so we can wrap up. Outside of 6, and I guess your question is, or your concern with 6 is the 20 feet setback?
Yeah, I thought we had lengthy discussion about that the last meeting.
Yeah.
Thought it was productive. I thought we all agreed that it should be 0 beyond the right of way if it's a
But this
set
is for
right of way.
junk, so your cars that would be parked there, I guess, I read that as no junk, so that we're talking debris that could fly out. I understand, so would you be okay, is your suggestion to eliminate it completely or to clarify what junk is? Well, I guess that's my question.
That's my point. And Kathy, that was my point. In all due respect. We were
It
talking
says
about,
junk.
we were talking about junkyards, right. But go back to where it started. It applies now, not just to junkyards, but to automobile services and dealers. So it applies to me and Eddie and anybody with a light business that's automobile related, not just junkyards.
Are the vehicles you're working on junk?
It doesn't matter.
That's what that number says.
Well, I think it should go back to what it.
You're not allowed to work on junk.
Need to be a junk car. Does it go back to JD doesn't have licenses on all of them, right?
No, I'm a dealer.
No, he's
I
a
can't-
dealer. So if we go back to there's no, if a junk car is one without a license on it, then all JD's cars are junk.
Right.
Right.
According to the nuisance ordinance, it's been on the books for over 20 years.
But that
Every
nuisance
year
ordinance is
like
crap.
that
The state
junk.
says he can have a car, he can have brand new cars sitting there, or cars sitting there to
Yes.
sell, and the township's gonna tell him he's not allowed because it falls under their junk ordinance. I think once again, we're back to superseding the state.
Technically,
Whether it's been put on
If
the,
he has a license, and he, again, whether or not we're gonna ultimately, the township's ultimately gonna decide whether the code enforcement officer goes out, whether or not it's online, however you confirm that you have that license, then that vehicle would be exempt on there, because it talks about having a license to have that. So, my interpretation, again, that's my interpretation, is if the code enforcement officer came to me and says, none of those have registration, or whatever you said your vehicles don't have, right? So if he's saying under here, I would say, no, he has a license, a proper license, therefore it wouldn't fall under a junk vehicle, they're allowed. That would be my interpretation. I understand that that's just my interpretation of it, that's how I would read that. So that you would be, those would not count as junk vehicles under that, you would be exempt because you have the license to have those on your property.
Yeah.
And that every year, however you determine that, or whether it's upon submitting it once, as long as you're in compliance, and you have that license, those vehicles that are covered under that license would not fall under the nuisance. That's how I would interpret it. If this was in place and a code enforcement officer came to me about your property, that's how I would read that.
So the code enforcement officer will come and cite you, then you'd have to take it and fight it and spend money out of your pocket. Because what if the township agrees with the code enforcement officer and you still want to fight it? Now you got to take money out of your own pocket to get a lawyer and fight for your rights on your property, whereas you wouldn't have to do that if we didn't have zoning.
Well, right now, you would, because it's already on.
Well, this just categorized a whole lot more.
Correct.
Yeah, it didn't used to cover JD.
In their tax dollar.
Yeah. Before we walked in, it didn't cover JD and Eddie. Now it
I
does.
didn't look through to see exactly what he would have to comply with, all the different things.
that's the whole point from the get-go. Grandfathered meant grandfathered, and it's not the case.
But you're going to be grandfathered probably, but you're still going to have to pay that yearly compliance tax that ain't grandfathered
no,
in.
if she pays the yearly tax, he is not grandfathered.
Yeah, exactly. It's a catch-22.
What about a beautician that cuts hair in the privacy of their own home, that's licensed by the state?
He changes
That would be
status
under, I
to
think
what
that's
they
a
wanted
occupation, I
to
don't.
do.
They have to have a permit and pay a fee and get inspections and be subject to inspections and all that?
So again, what I'm taking out of this right now is that the license aspect of it, the annual license aspect of it should just be being able to prove compliance, that you have the appropriate license.
What it should be is just what this was stated to be from day one. It is, you said at the beginning of this meeting, Michael, it isn't about yesterday, it's about from the day this passed moving forward. That's not what we're doing here. You're right, that's how it should be. So if somebody that's not a resident wants to come here and buy land and do a business, yes, that's supposed to be what it's for, our future. That's what it's been sold as, to define our future and how we want it to develop and all this, that, and the other. But yet it's going back on the people that are already here and the businesses they already have. So it's supposed to be about moving forward, not going back and getting money in arrears.
Well, just like the regulations that was on the books for 20 years that haven't been enforced. Once it hits this, it sets that clock to 0, and now they can enforce them on you. Because you have a fight if they try to enforce them on you now with no zoning. You have a legal fight against it. But once it hits this, that clock goes to 0.
So again,
Last month.
so I can make notes
Comment from Lee.
towards next week, 2 weeks from now, meeting, to update the draft. Your suggestion, and we'll ask the board, your suggestion is that just D under automobile services should just be eliminated? Does that solve a lot of your questions regarding the junkyard?
If it hasn't been enforced for 20 years, why did you put it in there?
I don't think a junkyard is a junkyard.
Okay.
A dealership's not, a repair shop's not, a gas station is not.
Right.
I don't see any junk cars sitting at the BP. But, as this is written, if somebody would park a car there,
For sale.
that it's not current registration or inspection,
Yeah.
then they'd be in violation. You could fit, by the way this is written, and again, I know it's not how it's intended or implied. If you had a franchise dealer, a new car dealership, wanted to come to this township, the way this is written, every car on that lot would have to be inspected and licensed. So the code enforcement officer could just stand there on Thursday or whatever day that car carrier comes in, delivers the vehicle, and cite them for every one of them. I know that's the extreme, but it's just an example, and it is, you have to take into consideration all that. Do you think that our founding fathers saw this coming? You know what I mean? Think about it. You know what I mean?
They did.
Wait.
They did.
They did.
That's why
And
they have
they-
the right to life, liberty, and property.
They gave us all the protection we need.
Yeah.
They did.
And they read it.
They wrote it
They read it and wrote it.
and signed it, that's right.
Unless someone wants to go further.
I mean, instead of you just typing in,
Take a vote, Joseph Cole. Yeah, no.
I mean,
Yeah, so we're all working on it the same, so we don't have to print out new ones.
Yes, I appreciate that. Yeah, we split out the reading. Yeah. Again.
So we'll pick up at adult.
I don't need to.
Even on a farm, if you have a farm truck, with those plates on the
Okay, we're done with zoning for the night?
I have a question real quick. On these minutes from last meeting, I guess this is, well, March 28th, this wasn't passed, correct? Is that what you said? Mrs. Gilmore?
We got a couple questions about it.
It was passed, you had a majority, It has to be a majority of the entire
Of the entire
annual
board.
planning commission, so it has to be 4.
Oh, do I get to vote now? I missed it or I missed it? Well, yeah, you can
Because
swing it, we won't have to go back.
I'm just a little concerned. I mean, I
say yes.
think everyone's here really for the good of the township. But when statements are made, I mean, I was just going through this, when statements are made like, I guess it was Mr. Rogers that said, he says we need more laws because people are stupid idiots.
That was my interpretation, I'll take all full responsibility.
It is on
That
the
wasn't
Drea was mad at me, and that's why she put that in there.
I just think it's inappropriate.
Sorry.
Okay,
I
this is,
apologize.
no, I'm just saying, well, first of all, you may, I mean, you interpret or whatever, but you shouldn't even be speaking like that. I mean,
Well,
we're
I
really, okay, all right,
Sherry, he didn't say those exact words, it was just implied and intended.
okay.
So it was
Well,
open for
I
interpretation.
think, everybody can interpret things differently, but you don't speak like that
I'm
when you're on a
sorry,
committee.
you weren't here. Through years of
Perfect example.
3-hour-long meetings that I.
Perfect example.
Well, and here is a perfect example. If we wouldn't have sat here for 3 hours tonight, or 7, or actually longer than that, then you wouldn't have clarified a lot of things that you just clarified in the discussions that you
Well,
had.
we missed that we do this all the time.
Well, no, I mean, obviously, there's things that people still don't know. It's inside this ordinance. I mean, this ordinance.
Draft.
So we have to have these discussions. And you have to talk about where are the pros, where are the cons, where's the gray line, how do we define this? Because if you don't, you're gonna have a mess down the road.
That's what we're doing.
But I think as a committee member, if I was on that committee, and this is just me, I would have read this thing up and down 100 times, and I would have highlighted, I would have researched, I would have known everything about this. Because that talks about your integrity of being on the board and what, and how dedicated you truly are to this. We have to make sure we do right by our township. And I mean, I've not been at these meetings, but I applaud you guys because you don't let up and you push for an answer, and we need that. So, I mean, I just think going forward and just make sure that if you have ever spoke like that, you don't speak like that in the future because it's inappropriate. And second of all, that, before this next meeting, I will definitely read this multiple times, and I will research a lot of this myself, so I know what I'm talking about. You need to do the same thing, because you are on that committee, okay?
But what my point is that I have experts.
You don't have to be an expert to understand
So did
something.
Obama.
Well, you know,
We gotta pass it to
Yeah,
see
I'm
what's
not
in
an
it.
expert either, but I will try my hardest to understand,
You're
get the
mistaken,
idea.
Sherry. This has only been an hour meeting. We were told it was only gonna be an hour meeting last month.
no, last week.
I'll be back.
Where's Bob?
Yes, you did.
1
hour meeting.
Bob made the comment at the last meeting. He says, I hope this is going to go on longer than the last supervisors meeting. What I said was, Bob, I promise you, it will be an hour or longer.
No, be limited to an hour or less.
You did it at the beginning, right? You probably rewatched it, refresh your memory, but that's not what happened.
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
Well, the next meeting is the 25th?
Yes.
25th.
We're going to pick up on 303 Dalton. We have a motion to adjourn. Nobody's going to make a motion to adjourn?
I will.
Second.
Was it 22nd?
Only get out that quiet.
What's the heat bill cost around here? My gosh.
I'm getting reports out of Pittsburgh. A lady from a friend of mine owns them.
Okay, how you vote, Kathy?
And she's gonna give me one of her New Jersey, she just got a
Jody?
New York.
I vote yes. Bob?
Yeah, move that around a little bit, Roger.
All right.
I was told that not enough people get sick.
Yeah, but I'm on,
Stuff up there.
yeah, but I'm on a leash, Darren. Darren.
You coming?
Did it? Stay for fireworks?
That should be a good tape with the Rodney Clarence commentary.
Darren, I'm on a leash. I can't move too much. Yeah, come shut this thing off.
Thank you, cameraman.
My arm is numb.